आप्यायन्तु मम गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So some students, they understand exactly what the teacher is communicating because the mind is prepared and sincere. Some miss out certain points, also don't understand it clearly. There are others who understand it opposite. And there are also some varieties who, at the end of it all, understand nothing. But those who don't understand anything can be a big disappointment. That, there's a saying कि पूरी रामायण समाप्त हो गई और पूछ रहा है कि राम कौन है? No? Oh, it will come here also. Such a student also. They do not know after the whole Ramayana who Ram is. No? There are some students, but they are not that bad. You just feel pity for them. But those who understand opposite. Yeah? So there are some varieties like that also. So this question of the teacher to the student is not that the teacher needs to test the student or be sure, but the student tests himself. Even over the years, I hear so many people who used to come for camps and all that saying, I got a glimpse of it, but then it disappears. I thought I understood it, I knew it, but then what happened with my life? So before you leave from here, the teacher is making the student question his own, because this is not like a, I understood this is an apple, and I will keep on repeating this is an apple. Just as a fire, and Bhagavan Shankaracharya himself gives that example, just as a fire can burn something well or not completely, but can you ever say the fire burns itself or burns itself not completely or halfly? Does it say like that? So I cannot know a little about myself or not very clear about myself. Either I know myself or I don't know myself. And again, it's not being an object of the instruments of our knowledge.
it cannot be said also it is known. So it is such a unique knowledge. And Kenopanishad is mainly for that, to understand the nature of knowledge. Others we think only studying is knowledge. Gathering information is knowledge. Some understanding or misunderstanding itself is also considered as knowledge. No? I know better than others, that also we think is knowledge. There's so many things are there. This is not that the teacher needs to test the student, but the student should test himself or herself and know that my knowledge or what I even glimpsed, this is just an expression, is the truth. Then there is firmness in it. Otherwise, if still there is if, buts, etc., doubts, whether the person needs to reflect still or has gained it. So, if we say that it is well, it's not so well, or I don't know it, or I know it, so teachers again throws a quandary here. And if you see, that creates a doubt, not for you to create the doubt. You don't shake the post to drop the post, but if the post is going to drop later on, it better I know that it is not firm. So that's why this question, the teacher says to the student, that if you think you know it well, you do not know it. Because so yadi manyase suveda, then understand, if I have understood it very well, then we have understood only a little about it. And a little about the infinite, or even much about the infinite, is not much. The infinite cannot be known in parts. Well, at least this much of infinite I know. This much of infinite is nothing. This much of infinite I know. It is also nothing. This is putting in simple words, no? Therefore, I think you need to ascertain whether you have known it or not known it. So the student goes back, reflects, meditates, and then returns back to the teacher. And when the Westerners read it, student asked such a intelligent question. And what did the teacher make out of that student? That's most people. If people go to the spiritual path, they become wonky. Log kahe mira bhai bhavri, saas kahe kulna sire, par pag gunguru bandh mira nache re. To get to that state, whatever others say or whatever others think, here the student says, and Gurudev used to make us memorize these words. But this is not for you to go say, I'm realized, because naham manye suvedeti, yona vedeti vedacha. That is when you really, really know it. So, says,
Naham manye suvedeti,
Naham manye suvedeti,
nona vedeti vedacha,
nona vedeti vedacha,
yonas tadveda tadveda,
yonas tadveda tadveda,
nona vedeti vedacha.
Naham manye suvedeti. So when teacher said, if you think you know very well, then I think you need to think a little bit more. So student, very clever student will say, Okay, teacher. I don't think I know it very well, so which means I'm realized, no? We want confirmation also. People also, it's not that, we've heard it all. People coming up to Gurudev. Do you think today, Gurudev, when I, Swamiji, today's meditation, my mind was absolutely blank. Was I in meditation or was I asleep? Or was I in meditation? Gurudev said, no, you were asleep. Because if you're in meditation, you would know. So I do not think that I know it well. Because the student has understood the drive of the teacher's words, that well or not well, it is clearer today, that we can say about objects. The self is either known or unknown. There's not like know it well or not know it very well. So, naham manye suveda. I cannot say that I know it well. Well, if you don't know it very well, which means you don't know, right? Student says, no, teacher. No, Naveda. Not that I do not know. Other students are listening. I do not know it well, but that doesn't mean I do not know. I do not know it well or not well, but it is not that I do not know. Acha? No, Naveda, not that I do not know. You just now said you do not know it well. And now you're saying that you did not know it. It's not that you don't know it. Are you confused about it? Vedacha. I know it. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya said that cha means I know it and I don't know it also. Which means the student has understood what the teacher has said. It is other than the known and the unknown. See how good you are. You know what it is. It is other than the known and other than the unknown. So it is not unknown, therefore I know it. But I don't know it as an object. Therefore it is unknown. He's understood the drive of what the teacher has said. This is beyond. Swamiji, now you confused us even more. See, we told you known and unknown. But even if I'm, like unknown, which means, I'm not realized. Atma is always realized. Why? It says other than the known and the unknown, knowing of any object or not knowing of any object is just your thought. This is a table. Really, this is a table or it's a chair turned upside down? I can have a doubt about this. And if I know this is a table and not a chair, it is known to me. How is it known to me? That my mind sees its form, makes a thought pattern in the mind of it, and that I know it, that thought takes place. Yes, this person was saying this is a table, this is a table, and I know what is a table. I am aware of that thought. Do you know gudu gudu? Anybody knows Guru Guru? Anybody knows Guru Guru? No? None of you? Nobody knows Guru Guru. Not any one of you. What are you doing on social media? Yeah. At least when I ask the question to the youngsters, they immediately, there and then, even though they're told to switch off their phone, they don't. I'm actually typing notes. Then somebody immediately says, oh, Gudu Gudu. That's Gado Gado written there, not Gudu Gudu. Gado Gado is an Indonesian dish. What is Gudu Gudu? Do you know it? You don't know. How do you know that you don't know? How do you know that you don't know? You know that you don't know. You know that you know. So you know that which you don't know. So how can you be unknown? Now realization doesn't take place. I don't know when it will. That who knows that you don't know is always knowledge. Is always aware. And yet, being the knower never becomes the known as an object. It's only thoughts of our mind that are either clear or not clear. So it is always known, even when the term Atma, Brahman you don't know, you know that you don't know Brahman. Knows who is the knower, who knows that which is known and unknown. That's why beyond both known and unknown. Vedanta is a methodology that makes you think beyond it. Beyond the known and the unknown. And the knower of the known and the unknown is always known, and yet remains unknown to the senses, the mind and the intellect. So, naham manye suvedeti, nona vedeti vedacha. And he says, yonas tadveda tadveda. Those amongst my students, my fellow students, understands what I am saying, not that gaya, pagal ho gaya. That's why don't you ever go and say, did you know? I've realized. No, there are people, I'm telling you. Go and say, Swamiji, you can't realize it. I'm realized. Acha, you know the Atma. He says, those who understand what I am saying, that I do not know it well. It is not that I don't know it. Yeah. I know it and I don't know it. One who understands what I am saying, such a person knows that this Atma is known and yet unknown. Then, there, as though, like a compare or an MC, or a sutradhar, when the student made this statement, the teacher would have been blissfully quiet, no more to test, and the other students must have. So Mother Shruti herself intervenes to assert, and she says,
Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam
Yasya amatam tasya matam. Such a person, tasya matam, that person comprehends it, who comprehends it not. And matam yasya na vedasa. And one who thinks that I know it does not know it. Avijñātam vijānatam. Vijānatam, to the real knowers, those realized enlightened people, they clearly said, the Master himself said, no, we do not know it. It remains always unknown. And this is very beautifully pointed out in the Gita is, no, that it is experienced as a wonder. The intellect itself gets hushed in that experience, that there is not even an intellect to tell what it is. It is just before realization, that bliss that you experience in just when the intellect is dissolving, galitam. That moment, the burst of bliss that you experience, in which the intellect just merges, that is what is remembered. And from that it is said that that itself is uncountable, incomprehensible bliss. So that source of bliss, what it must be. Therefore, for those who think they have comprehended, means made a concept, idea, it remains as known to them. They think that they know it. And therefore they are ignorant of it. It is unknown to the masters of true knowledge, but to the ignorant, it is the known. Avijñātam vijānatam. Vijñātam avijānatam. So, here is where Mother Shruti comes in. That student, pretyasma lokād amrita bhavanti. Having transcended the body, mind, intellect, doing his namaskar, he has completed this knowledge. Now the other students who heard this, now how can you know that which is unknown? Can you show us some, can we have some breakthrough? Can you give us some methodology by recognizing that knower which never becomes the known? Now that knower which never becomes a known, how will I know it? No, they're completely confusing. The Shruti says, those who know it, it remains unknown. Those who think they know it, they do not know it. But give us some methodology, give us some meditation by which we will be able to realize this. Because we still, I'm telling you, as much as you study Vedanta, you still want to see the Atma. That's why it is said, it's like a light here. Light is the symbol of knowledge, consciousness, etc. So, what we have upasana now must be something with which we can identify the higher, absolute. But nothing can be similar or even, but we see something similar in it and then we hold on to it, hold on to the image of it. But remember that image is not the reality. Nedam yadidam upasate. That is to be understood. So now show us some methodology, How do we recognize this consciousness? So this verse, and this is the meditation that we actually teach everybody. So learn it and practice it.
Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate amritam.
Pratibodha viditam matam. Now this verse or this statement, even Shankaracharya gives a very beautiful meaning of pratibodhitam. One is that what we have heard clearly from the teachers and the scriptures, to reflect, to understand, to internalize and to realize that. But he himself says that that meaning is there because that's the direct way of realization. However, the student who heard the teacher has already realized. So this is that how do I recognize this self, this consciousness? Because if it cannot be seen, it cannot be known, how do I recognize it? Pratibodha viditam matam. One who intuits it in and through every modification of the mind. So pratibodhitam, that constantly through our senses we are experiencing the world, and moment to moment knowledge is taking place in our mind. And that knowledge takes place in the form of thoughts. That knowledge takes place in the form of thoughts. Even when we are listening to the scriptures, the thought that should take place of knowledge is called as Brahmakar Vritti. Because our thought takes the form of the object. And when we become aware of that thought, then that knowledge takes place. This is the process of how knowledge takes place. Thoughts are inert. When consciousness is reflected in that thought, when you become aware of that thought, then that knowledge takes place. I'm putting in very simple words. And that you have to observe yourself. The form of the table you see through your eyes. Your mind sends the information to intellect. Your intellect interprets that this is a table, it is meant for something to be kept upon. That thought modification takes place in your mind. But if there is no consciousness, you are not aware of the thought by itself, being inert, cannot bring knowledge, is it not? For example, if the table had consciousness, what would happen? There was never a time that you would not be conscious of it. It would not be visible to you. But you know when you are not thinking about it, you don't see the table also, is it not? So when the thought takes place and you are aware, then the knowledge takes place. Now, unlike other thoughts, when we listen to the scriptures and the thought takes place that this Brahman is consciousness, this consciousness is me, or we chant Ram, 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 Ram. In every thought, you become conscious of that thought, is it not? Now, one very beautiful example Gurudev would demonstrate. What is on my hand? Reading glasses. Right? Now I remove this and I put this. What is there? Bookmark. I remove this and I put this. What is there in my hand? Now when I remove this and don't put anything there, what is on my hand? Nothing, right? Why you say nothing? Because pure light is not perceived by you. But is it not that in the light you are able to see? Therefore, pure consciousness, there is nothing to be conscious about. Therefore, this very special intuitive power where, and this is what is called as meditation or practice of meditation or contemplation, that you withdraw your mind from external gross objects, situations, people, etc. And in the seat of meditation, whether you're contemplating on the verses of the mantras of the Upanishads, trying to understand them, reflect them, or you are even chanting Ram, 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 our understanding today is that when I know something, I am the knower. When there is something to be conscious of, I am conscious. That's why we have these notions that I am unconscious, or what happens to the person when a person is unconscious. These things we keep on asking because we don't understand, and pure consciousness is the knower, it's not the object of knowing. And even to call it as knower is a misnomer. It is only from the thoughts and the objects that you can infer it to be the knower. So, even though there is light here, and especially if you get a chance, you got that much money and in your lifetime you can go on space travel, but otherwise you have to just see it in documentaries and movies. When you are out in space, even though the sun is there, everything in space beyond atmosphere is dark. You don't see it. But suddenly if a meteor passes from there and the light gets reflected on it, suddenly there is a glow of light. Same way, when there are thoughts which can reflect consciousness, you feel that you are conscious. So first, shift your attention from objects to your thoughts. All japa, etc. are to quieten and slow down your mind. As a practice. First, you think about the thoughts. So, from the gross to the subtle thoughts. Even here, I'll tell you, then you will understand. If you practice even this much, you'll understand that whether the problems of your life or the success of your life is already there in your thought. Then you'll understand that this whole creation, Vishvam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. That it is in your thought, but it is not for that that meditation is also. When you watch your thoughts, you are beginning to see that I am conscious of my thoughts. This is also reflected consciousness. What you are being, we are thinking as consciousness. So shift your attention from the thought to the light that is illumining the thought. Just like you have a bucket of water and the water is shaking, the reflection is shaking, the patterns are shaking. But when you see the water and know that the water is shaking and you shift your attention from the water to the light, because of which also you can see the water, then you recognize that the one who is illumining it. Thus you can recognize that the thoughts are inert and what I see as knowledge, what I see as consciousness means that knowledge, it is due to the presence of consciousness. And if we can shift our attention to that reflection of consciousness, then you realize that if the reflection makes you see the thoughts, then the one who is being reflected in the thoughts is all brilliance. I'm not talking brilliance in terms of light. It's like you make a quantum leap to stop identifying with the thought, the reflection of thought, to know that I am being reflected or I am illumining this thought. And there are no words also. The words take place in the thought. That this consciousness is me. And when all other thoughts go away, that identification with them go away. Pretyas malokat. Giving up that identification with that I and that my. Giving up that identification with that. Amrita bhavanti. And Amrita bhavanti doesn't become immortal. Realizes what? That before the thought, even when thought was not there, the absence of that thought, that absence of that knowledge, where there was no knowledge, I was aware. Thus, I am other than the unknown and the known. Like that, I understand, no? That is what pratibodha. So this is called as upalabdhi dwar. Teachers don't give up, students give up. Pratibodha viditam matam. And such a person, amritatvam hi vindate. Such a person indeed, when you say attains, gains, it means what? Discovers that I am immortal, unchanging, imperishable. Because even when in meditation, when you withdraw, or even in sleep, when you withdraw from the body, you're dead to the world. Your body lies there dead. Is it not? But still, you are present. Who knows even the absence of all the thoughts. So one who can intuit it with the thoughts, and with the thoughts you can recognize the absence of the thoughts. The one who recognizes both the thought and the absence of the thought. Such a person indeed attains immortality. But from where do I get this? Swamiji, where do I get this? Atmana vindate viryam. It is from this Atma only one derives real strength. But Atma is even now that why I am such a Buddhu, I can't think like this, I can't have that energy and strength, I don't know, I really can't understand, I don't know, this was too much, beyond. That's why it was really great, but it was beyond, It is beyond. So where will I, and here the strength is not the physical strength. That strength to leap beyond the known into the unknown, which is the knower. And therefore beyond known and unknown. Atmana vindate viryam. Now, how does it gain that? Even when you have come here, even when you have come here, leaving all those things just temporarily, without which you thought you cannot, life is boring, without that person's appreciation, nobody appreciates me, all those things that trouble us in our family life, business life, etc. You have just temporarily left this and come here. And if you have switched off your phone, not only in class, but throughout this trip, all that you thought were giving you pleasures, because of you were attached, therefore your mind was agitated, therefore your energies were being dissipated. Suddenly you realize you have so much more time, so much more energy, so much more capacity. Atmana vindyate viryam, that courage, that determination, that strength comes. And when Gurudev used to tell us, we experienced it. When we came for the first camp, we didn't even know what an ashram is. I thought that I had to take a lota and go to the forest, which pretty much I did. I only came here all the way from Hong Kong with two, because the ashram you are going, you don't carry a whole, what they carry? Trunks. Yeah. That's why Gurudev gave orange robes to everybody, so that you don't have the fashion parade, Yeah. I literally brought 2 pajama kurta. I'm going to an ashram. The pant and shirt I wore and came, I put it in the box. I had only 2. One wash one day, because I didn't want to smell. Wash one day, wear the other next day. Literally 2 pairs of clothes. And brought one sleeveless sweater, because the Himalayas, it could be cold. And came in one, not suitcase, attaché. That Air India attaché used to get. And that, because I'm going to an ashram. I didn't even think what I would be needing. And many of us came like that. We had to sleep literally on the chatai, on the ground, no mattresses. 7 of us in a room. We had to have a bath, because we can't come to Gurudev's meditation session without a bath. And we can do prokshan and come, but we didn't know those tricks that time. Purity, Ganges Yamunes Chaiva. Now you see what happens in the Paduka Puja. I'm just telling you the steps of it, Didn't know what we'd be requiring. I tell you, literally, because nothing was available here. This was not like, as you see, Dharamsala developed. There was bangan and potato and bangan, and you're complaining about dal every day. There was no dal only. Because dal in this climate is not easy to cook. In this height also, So, and cooking was with fire, wood fire, So you couldn't have the luxury of three dishes. Then the person who gets up first in the morning, we had a time. Since we used to be hanging around with Gurudev and then going and composing songs and being youngsters, come to our room late. Composing songs, not doing, pizzas were not available. No pizza parties, no coke parties. Yeah. We would be sitting down on that tree, which is still there, composing songs on Gurudev and all that. And by the time we come to the room, the snoring of the adults, and we were a mixed group. There were some 60-year-old ones, and we were, literally 21, 22, all in one room, lined together, carpeted with people. Yeah. One bathroom, toilet, sometimes water not there, sometimes water there, And some of you have been there, you know it, right? What I'm trying to tell you is none of these even basic amenities, much more than that we were used to, were there. We came for 10 days, kept on extending 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, and didn't want to leave from here. Yeah. And what's the most amazing thing was, we were happy. And you realized that you do not require things to be happy. Things are required for food and all, eating and all, but you don't require things to be happy. That I can be happy without any of this. Atmana vindate viryam. Yeah? That you had the strength to say that everything we think without which we cannot live, we were living without it. Everything we thought that without which, like mobile phones, yeah, we cannot do it, we did. And in the midst of all not having any of these things, most important thing was we were happy. So happy that we didn't want to leave this place. So happy that we wanted to come back in all these difficulties again and again and again. And all these difficulties appeared as, in today, the most joyful experience of our lives. And the conviction, the vairagya you get at that time through this direct experience, that I can be happy with or without things. Sometimes with things also we are not happy. No? And when that conviction comes in, you have the courage, you have the determination, you have the strength that even if I withdraw from the world, I am not going to perish. Who will look after my body? Let it perish. My existence does not depend on this body. This body depends on me. Atmana vindate viryam. The more we come to know about ourselves, the more we start experiencing this quietude, the more we feel this illumination. It's as though that strength of conviction, the strength for this knowledge, the strength to rocket forth. Because the problem is, we don't want to get out of our comfort zones. Even the comfort of our own ideologies, the comfort of our own thinking. And even to think that without this body, without even these thoughts, I don't cease to exist. I am. So the more you become spiritual, the more courageous. Courage is not to go and fight with people. Courage to walk this path. The enthusiasm to walk this path is like a magnet that pulls you, that you can't even stop yourself. That energy, that dynamism, that readiness to serve, the readiness to do your sadhana. Not that, oh, I have to do this also. I have to do that also. Oh, this is so difficult. It's known, unknown, very difficult. Know it that's known and unknown. Because there's no other way. Nanyaf pantha. Ayanaya vidyate. There's no other way to know it. And at the same time, there is no other way by which you can attain this happiness. But as your mind becomes, and you become watchful of your thoughts. And this is how, coming to Siddhbadi, we watched our thoughts. And I know I had to go straight into the very, crisis of business, and at that time, so many events, etc. But I knew there was a part of me that was always aware, always calm. And for any reason, an agitation came into the mind. Whether it may be a disturbance in a form of a want, however subtle or however sublime or however sattvic that want may be. Or somebody said something or some situation is there. The moment you have experienced that quietude, the moment such a thought fluctuation comes in to disturb your peace, to disturb your happiness, you don't have to sit, I'm trying to let go, it's not going, I'm trying to let go, I'm going to let go, it's not going. We're holding on, let go. Your mind that wants happiness and peace, when it recognizes that this thought is causing me agitation, that moment it will drop it, and drop it forever. Then only when you realize that this ego, this I thought, this identification that is there, otherwise the fear of the ego is I'll become nothing. Yeah? We have fear of the unknown. Atmana vindyate viryam. From within itself, you will get that. So the more you do your sadhana sincerely and properly, the more strength, the more dynamism, the more enthusiasm, the more ability you will begin to start getting. It's like almost a magnet is sucking you in. It becomes just effortless. That's why it is said, you come this close to God or Guru, remaining. This is the meaning of Atma. Otherwise, don't worry, Atma, God will give you the strength. As you go closer and closer to the bliss, the more and more naturally your mind gets attracted towards you. Just as you come into the range of the magnet, first it may be slow, but when it comes to that critical distance, zwing. That's why it is said that this realization is instantaneous. All the process, the sadhana to come to that point might take lifetimes. But when you come to that position, then your effort ceases. Atmana vindate viryam, but vidyaya amritam ashnute. It is only with knowledge. And now what is the nature of this knowledge has become clear. That it is only on knowing that one attains immortality. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amritatva manashu. And what does knowledge do? In knowledge, there is the renunciation of the ego, that identification. Yeah? And when that thought itself, that's why in Gita 5th chapter, no one can be called as a sannyasi until and that person has done tyaga of sankalpa. So, the scriptures have given the clear knowledge, and when we understand it, pratibodha viditam, that meaning also, as Shankaracharya says, is valid. When we understand the subtle import of the scriptures and the Guru's words. And the closer we get, the more we know the glory of the self, the more you get attracted, the more strength, dynamism, conviction you get. So don't worry, just walk the path. That is what is said here. Now, the teacher gives a warning. Chalo, all this is nice, but heaven can wait. Realization can wait. About that, what the Guru has to say, I better not tell it now. Because now we are talking about immortality. But then, of death, we should not talk right now. So who are dead? That is what the Guru is going to say. We'll say in the next verse. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.